Hi, and welcome back to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Canary Room. Just before I start, I must thank you all, those of you who jumped on the Facebook page to congratulate myself and Claire, my wife, on the arrival of baby Charlotte. She is absolutely gorgeous. I am absolutely smitten. So thank you everybody for that. And whilst I'm in the process of thanking, a huge thank you to Stephen Higgins and Michael Burling for making a donation towards the show. Gents, absolutely incredibly generous of you, massively appreciated. Thanks very much. If you too want to make a donation, if you follow the link on our YouTube channel, you'll see donate here. It covers some of the production costs that I incur in putting the show together. So thank you to Stephen and Michael, and of course to you as well. Coming up on the show today, we've got February's Top Tips Part 2. As we film around the Canary Room, you'll start to notice that we've moved things around quite a little bit over the weekend. In fact, we spent an entire weekend getting ready for the breeding season. What you'll also be able to tell and hear is there's an awful lot of noise in the Canary Room. So as the cocks have been singled off, they're getting into advanced breeding condition. And so sometimes I come in here and I can't hear myself think. We've got the RedBull Diaries, of course, and we've got Bird of the Week. We'll take a look as well into Australia and some footage that one of the viewers for the show sent in of some of the borders over in Australia. So we'll have a little look at that later on too. We're on the road. We're back to Swords to see the winners. Feedback from our trip to Swords has been incredible. So thank you very much for that. And we'll finish the show as always with question time. So sit back, get yourself a cuppa and enjoy. You'll recall in episode 2 of the show that we took a look back at the formation of the light line of birds in the Canary Room. And one of the things we said, that line was in year 3 and would continue to develop over the coming years. And the line that we were going to focus on in this episode was the dark line. Now, I've always enjoyed a strong dark line of Fife Canaries. Some of my biggest successes on the show bench have come out of those dark lines. I've won Best Green, Best Fowl, Best Heavily Variegated at both the Midland and the North of England. 2 of the biggest shows on the Fife circuit. It's fair to say that my green line, having been incredibly successful, had come to the end of its natural life. Now, that wasn't through bad planning on my part, just a couple of unlucky seasons when the birds didn't produce the quality and volume of young that I'd hoped they would. So, 2 years ago now, in 2018, I reset the lines. I reset the lines with the acquisition of a couple of very strong dark birds from Gerald. A heavily variegated buff cock and a self-green buff hen, its full sister. In 2019, although the sister laid, she didn't breed and rear young for me. I have retained her. The cock, on the other hand, filled plenty of nests and produced a series of very, very good quality birds. What I've decided to do this year is pair the cock back to 3 of his daughters. Now that's a very close pairing. As we saw in the last episode, when it works, it can produce you a whole shed full of real quality birds. What it will do though is bring the faults of these birds right up to the surface very, very quickly. Now, one of the questions that I had on the YouTube channel was, would I do brother and sister pairing? I have done it in the past, but for me it's just a little bit too close. If you think about a father and daughter or a mother and son pairing, then the progeny has got, the genes of some other bird within it, whereas brother and sister are very closely together in essentially an identical gene pool. So when I look at the heavily variegated buff cock that I bought in, he's a real stunning bird. Even as we see him here as an over-year bird, he's still small, he's still got the quality and the features that you're looking for. I've retained 2 sons from him, a heavily variegated buff cock and a heavily variegated yellow cock. Now, the father of the 2 sons, the heavily variegated buff cock, will go across, as I said earlier, 3 of his daughters. 3 really nice dark yellow hens. Be interesting to see what those birds pair. His son, a heavily variegated yellow cock, is going to go over the studcock's sister and another flighted buff hen. Now, I bred this buff hen a couple of years ago. I was working, I bought in a bird from Adam Kendall, and this is the granddaughter of one of those birds. So it's a nice bird, and it's got a little bit of Adam's blood in it as well as my own blood. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that pair develops and breeds. The heavily variegated buff cock will get the chance to go over one of his half-sisters just for 1 round. So he's a good bird. He isn't as good as his father. But just to keep things a little bit fresh and thinking about next year and the year after, I'll pair him over one of his half-sisters this time round. So that's the formation of the green line set. So I'm building that gene pool up. There's a quality of bird in there that I really like the look of, and I want to replicate that quality. So I'm going quite close to start with a line breeding program and an inbreeding program. And then over the next 2 or 3 years, I'll have sons, daughters, grandsons, uncles, aunties, nephews, nieces, all of whom hopefully will retain the same visual appearance, that I can build and re-establish that dark line for the bench. And that's what I'll hope to do over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. When you're putting a line of birds together, you're not thinking just about this year. You're thinking about the pairings that you're going to make that will move the stud forward for years to come. You want to be able to have those birds that you can breed from moving forward to continue to develop the line. It's important when you're doing this breeding that you keep fantastic records. What I don't want to do next year, having gone quite close this year, is go too close again next year. So key records and rings will play an important part in the formation of the quality of this line. And hopefully we'll see some success on the show bench in 2020, but more importantly, a strong stud of birds to pick from next time round. On the next show, we'll look at the formation of the cinnamon line and our allied to white lines. They're just starting out, so I'll talk you through the decisions I've made in putting those birds together. What has absolutely delighted me has been the feedback from fanciers all over the world to the show. It really does mean a great deal. I spend probably a day and a half actually filming the show, putting it together, and thinking about what's happening in the Canary Room at that specific time, and thinking what might be useful for people to watch and enjoy. I try and film as much of the birds as I possibly can, so you're not just stuck with this ugly mug. But for people to take the time to contact the show is very much appreciated. One of the things as Canary fanciers that we often debate is the form of the birds in different parts of the world. We've just seen the World Show. A number of UK fanciers have had some degrees of success there, and fanciers from different countries have had degrees of success. There is a raging debate online about the fife in different parts of the world, with some of the international examples very full on the front, with limited on the back. And it can, unfortunately, it can descend into sort of, we're right, you're wrong, and actually we're bird keepers. So we should just enjoy the fancy, and we should enjoy and embrace our differences. I had some images and footage sent over to me of the borders in Australia, and I'm going to share those with you now. And as we can see, although the top end of the bird, the head, is not dissimilar to the borders that we see in the UK, the rest of the bird is a very, very different shape. These birds are certainly look longer, appear to be longer, and don't have the roundness on the back that we associate with the modern day border. So it would be very easy to be dismissive of them as a breed. They provide enjoyment for their fanciers, and actually, if you were to study them closely, you'd see that they bear a significant resemblance to some of the original border models that predate the current border model. So we should celebrate our differences and celebrate the fact that actually there are bird keepers all over the world just enjoying their birds. Thanks for sending the birds in. I feel like it might become a regular feature to the show if more and more people were to send the birds in. Who knows? We can have a look at them then. It's one of the most popular elements of the show, and it's one of the elements that I get a significant amount of feedback on, and I am incredibly grateful to anybody who gets in touch with the show, and I will always try and answer your questions and comments. It's time for the Canary Room's Top Tips. So, our top tips continued for February are all about bringing the birds into a little bit further advanced. The weather has been mixed, to say the least. We've seen frost, we've seen storms, we've seen lovely sunshiny days over the course of the last week. And all of those things will have an impact on bringing the birds forward and how the birds are. I'm often asked, how do you bring your birds on? Well, the key is to do it gradually. And, we've increased light over a period of time, and we continue to do so. We offer additional green food, and we offer egg food at this time with no soak seed yet. We'll offer soak seed in March. But we're bringing the birds on gradually. You don't want to try and shock the birds in to advanced breeding conditions. Of course, one of the great things with Facebook is you get to see into different people's sheds. One of the challenges is often you can see people with birds in the nest or young or birds on eggs and think, oh, you're too far behind, and you'll rush to try and catch up. Your birds will tell you when they're ready, and they'll tell you by some interesting little signs. I saw one of the variegated buff hens just last week pick up little pieces of the sawdust I use, which is teal wool, in the stock cages. I've seen other hens just shuffling a little bit and trilling and calling to their intended mates. These are all little signs that you need to keep an eye out for. You can hear the cockbirds singing lustfully in the Canary Room at the moment. So our first top tip is a bath. Now, I offer baths throughout the winter months just before I do a deep clean, because I don't like to keep wet sawdust in the bottom of the cage. I don't think it's good for the birds, I don't think it's good for their environment or their health. So I add, as we can see here, a bath salt I got this from Malta, but it's readily available. I add this to some warm water. Now the water isn't too hot, and obviously having a new baby on board, I'm very good at checking the temperature of the water, but I add the baths. I add the water first. So I use a warm water, and then I give that to all of the birds in the canary room. Now there's something I really enjoy, and that's watching our birds bathe in the canary room. So let's just take a moment and enjoy that right now. The clean down in the canary room takes 2 full days at this time of year. Now I will use first and foremost a veterinary disinfectant in warm water, and I wash all of the cages down. Now I do that every month, but at this time of year I pay particular attention to the perches, the cage fronts, as well as inside the cage. We want to ensure that there are no nasties hanging around. One of the great accompaniments to the canary room is Dettol spray. Now I'll go through a whole 750ml spray, just cleaning the cages out and disinfecting them. As I say, it's a 2-day operation. Fortunately, I'm not going to make you watch the full 2 days, but I took some time-lapse footage of me in my finery, cleaning out some of the cages just to the side of me here. So without further ado, let's have a little look at that now. You can see as this footage rolls that I'm cleaning the perches down. I'm also using a vacuum cleaner, a wood shavings hoover that I use in here just for convenience to get everything out. I'm washing the cages down and I'm preparing the birds and getting them ready. So one of the things we do, as well as giving a deep clean, is we clean all of our drinkers and our seed hoppers. We use a variety called Portex in the canary room. The slides will come out, leaving the clear white plastic beneath. So what we do to start with is we sort of rinse them all off. We soak them for 30 minutes in a Milton style solution. We use Dr. Johnson's in the canary room, and then we pop them in the dishwasher. So they go in the dishwasher for a full deep clean cycle, and then we bring them back out later on, much to everybody's joy. The final touch to do will be to trim the birds, both the borders behind me here and the Norwich just below here, and then to check the nails of all of the other birds. Now, unflighted birds, so that's birds born last year, are unlikely to need their nails trimming. The over-year birds most definitely will. And one of the reasons we do that, as part of the general husbandry, is to make sure that when they lay eggs, they don't burst those eggs with long nails. So we'll catch birds up in the next episode and we'll trim their nails quickly. We're still giving egg food once a week. It's now in finger drawers, because the other thing that we've done is we've singled all of the birds off. With the exception of 4 fife hens just in the cage here, which we've left in a double, all of the birds in the canary room have been singled off. So there are top tips for February, really about cleanliness and separating the birds in time for the breeding season. Separating the birds, of course, will allow you to see if there's any birds carrying an illness. When they're in groups together, they can often hide that illness. When they're on their own, you'll see them fluffed up and tucked up, and then you can take necessary action. That's this month's top tips. I am quite prepared to admit I was wrong. Most of the time. It's time for Bird of the Week. Now, bird of the week this week may surprise you. It is actually a variegated, heavily variegated yellow Scotch Fancy. And as I singled the birds off at the weekend, this bird is on its own now, and I can start to see its beauty. It is an interesting shape, but there's a certain style and elegance about it. So we'll have a look at it here, just in its stock cage. I haven't put it, although you do show them in cages very similar to the 5 cage. I've not put it in a 5 cage, just because I didn't really want to stress the bird out too much. It's a pretty looking thing. Our bird of the week this week is a delightful Scotch Fancy. It's a part of the show that brings laughter, tears, mainly tears. It's the RedBull Diaries. As you can see behind me, we've separated off the poles, so they're just enjoying some of their egg food with their pinkies in. So they're separated off. We've got 5 pairs here, so sort of top to bottom. We've got a pair of Isabels. We have a normal cock with a pied hen. We've got a split pied hen and a pied cock. We've got a pair of silvers and an Isabel hen and a normal cock. We have, just out of shot over there, we've got another pair of Isabel Redpolls, and we've got what I think are 2 more cocks. Now those 2 cocks, one is in with a Razza hen, one is in with a Scotch Fancy hen at the moment, and that's only because they may mini mule, they may not, but it's only because I thought they were 2 cocks, so I didn't want to put them together because they will fight till the death. So Redpolls are starting to come into some condition. It'll be some time yet until they breed. So in March time we'll put the nest pans in and the nest boxes in, but we won't do that just yet. What we will do now for them is give them some grit. So they've had grit in the cages, but we'll put some grit pots in. You'll notice as we've gone round the Canary Room, I put the cuttlefish holders in. Cuttlefish will go in before the end of February. Some of the hens have, most of the canary hens have had cuttlefish, and the goldfinch hens have got it all year round. So I will put some cuttlefish in as well for here, and then I'll start to add some calcium to the water, but we'll talk about that in future episodes. So for now, it's to sit back and relax and enjoy these delightful little birds, really making a meal of their egg food. When we look at the goldfinches, we can see they too are enjoying their egg food, they're enjoying their grit. With the native goldfinches, one of the ways we can tell they come into breeding condition is by the beaks. You can see there's still a black tip on the end of the beak, so that means that there's still some way to go, but no rush for them just yet. The feedback from last week's trip to Swords over in Ireland has been fantastic. I had a number of fanciers contact me who were at the show, so cheers for that, fellas. It's time for us to go and see some of the winners. Unfortunately, I didn't get them all, but it's time for us to see some of the winners from our sword show as we go back on the road. Back at Swords, you can see we've got the first 7 of the fifes. We've got a blue that was Paul Larkins, that was best in show, and the O'Donovan partnership with best novice. And then we get into the borders, a nice allied to white border that won the show, and we can see the full 7 here, dominated by Gida, and Furley had a bird in there as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get all of the winners, and I didn't get all of the names of the winners, so my apologies in advance for those people who don't get a name check out. You've done incredibly well to get a bird on the top table here at Swords. The borders were as you'd expect from Ireland, of a very, very good standard. Some very nice birds up on the top 7. Although this little cinnamon did take some time for me to encourage it to get back up on the birches, but I get there in the end. You can just see my little fingers tickling it back onto the bench. So we finish with the borders, best novice there, and then we look around at the Irish now, as I mentioned before, and you probably expect a stunning collection of Irish fancies, beautiful little birds. We move into the Reds, a special mention to the Mitchell and Graydon partnership, who had best red. Now, unfortunately, although I got a number of the different coloured varieties, I didn't get the best red. They, I know, had success at Stafford the previous week, where they won best red with a non-intensive hen. So many congratulations to them. Just having a good look at all the different types of canaries. Yorkies, Ireland's done well in Yorkies for some time. They're a nice bird, the Yorkie. We see them here. And then we look at the best of the British. The greenie there, the Redpoll, which has got some real size on it. Just sit back and enjoy. We've got another greenie. Just sit back and enjoy the quality of the selection of birds on show. The variety, I think, has been an eye-opener for me. As we move into specialist shows, there's a lot of this is lost to the fancier. As a specialist 5 breeder, we have border and 5 shows, but they're generally all 5 shows, and we can get up to 1,500 birds, over 2,000 birds here at Swords, various different varieties, and actually as bird keepers and bird fanciers, they are a sight to behold. Beautiful to look at, absolutely stunning birds to see and enjoy and to learn from. We can all learn from different parts of the fancy, and I think that's often lost. There are certain things which transfer between the British breeds and Canary breeds. I've picked up certainly an awful lot of stuff. We move into the foreign section now, so we've got some zebbies here, some zebra finches. Grass finch here, which is in stunning condition. So the foreign birds, we've got some Bengalese here that have done well. Beautiful birds, really, to just to admire. It was a phenomenally great day. There's a little memento of the occasion for me, and they're very, very kind to the guys at Swords to provide this. And we hopped back on a plane, and we were on our way back to the northwest of England. So thanks everyone at Swords, and a fantastic show. It's time for question time. It's been an action-packed show, so just the one question on today's show, which came in through our Facebook page. What's the difference between a yellow and a buff? It's an incredibly good question, one that I struggled with when I first started out keeping canaries. The first thing to say is that a yellow and a buff has nothing to do with the colour of a bird. It is to do with the type of feather. So a buff feathered bird is more broader in feather, and a yellow feathered bird has a narrower feather. We can see it with the birds behind me here, where we've got a clear buff hen and a clear yellow hen. And you can see that one of them, the buff bird, looks like it's been sprinkled with perhaps a little bit of icing sugar, and so it's got a paler colour on it, but it is still a clear. The yellow behind me here has got a deeper, richer colour, and that's still a clear, but that's a yellow and that's a buff. So in fife breeding, what we generally do is we pair yellow and buff feathered birds together. Hope that's helped. If you've got a question for the show, pop it in the comments or email us on Messenger and we'll include it in a future episode. So it's the end of another episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, if you can and you've enjoyed the show, hit our donate button. As little as £1 donation, and it helps cover some of our costs. Next time in March, we'll look at top tips for March. We'll go back on the road as well. I've got some footage from a show trip in Malta that I'd love to share with you. Coming up in the future episodes, we're going to go on the road, so we'll be going to see the Yorkie Supreme stud, we'll go and see Steve Dominy, and we'll also go and see Julian and Julian's Canary Bird Room, so we'll have full-length episodes from there. Until next time, take care.